morning, everybody. In for Jalen Rose. He's back. Ryan Hollins, thank you so much for coming to the Seaport and doing the show in person, Ryan.
Anytime, brother. Come on, man. Come on.
Yesterday on the show, Jalen and I talked about James Harden. Do you know what we talked about? Him missing 22 straight threes. He missed 22 straight threes. Didn't miss 22 threes last night. Last night, James Harden up against the Heat. They were down big. James Harden scored 34 points in the second half, finished with 58 points and 10 assists. It is his 7th career game with 50 points and 10 assists. How can someone go from missing 22 threes to scoring 58 points in the NBA? Like, how does that happen?
As a shooter, you always believe. And as he missed 22 or 23 straight three-point shots, he always had in his mind that he was going to make the next shot. And a guy like James Harden, he actually believes that. So when he goes off the next night for 58, after his span of, what was it, 28, 29 straight 30-point games, he has believed every shot is going in. And that's why the shots are dropping. Now, obviously, James Harden puts in work.
He does.
He gets in early. He stays late. He does all the little things, all the greats that I've known. Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Dirk Nowitzki. Those guys were there early, after, putting in tireless hours and efforts into their shooting. James Harden is no different. So he got back in the lab, put in the work, and knocked down shots.
He articulated pretty much exactly that when he was asked about it after the game. Let's listen to James.
I wanted to be aggressive and continue to just attack the rim, take my shots when I had opportunities, and I don't worry about missing shots or making shots. I worry about taking the shots that I work on, and they're going to go in eventually. So whether I shoot 2 for 30 or 15, 16 for 30, I mean, those shots are going to get shot.
I love he said, take the shots that I work on, and we showed him shooting from like 35 feet. Those are the shots that I work on. So what's interesting about the Rockets, remember how slow they started this season? And then we all kind of doubted them. We're like, oh, they lost Ariza and Bamute. Their defense has definitely taken a step backwards from the last season to this season. But this is the first time they've really, truly been at full strength. They've got Capella back. They've got Shumpert. They've got Paul. They've got Harden. They've got their team now. Are they a threat to the Warriors in the Western Conference?
Of course they're a threat. Anytime you have a team that had been there before, had challenged the Warriors, you're going to be a threat. And if you look at the Western Conference, if you look at the playoffs, even more so, you win in the playoffs with star power. Why? Everybody knows your plays. Everybody knows your sets. Everybody knows your tendencies. I would say there's a scouting report, but now there's iPads with information. I mean, you get somebody's birthday, their favorite food, where they're going to be on the court. You get anything you want to get, everything you want to get. So now when star power takes over, you need a guy who can go out and create his own shot. Well, who is James Harden? James Harden is by far the best player in the NBA at least creating his own shot and making things happen, playmaking.
Not just creating his own shot, but giving other people wide open looks if he does it. Like it's either a lob for Capella or it's a wide open three for someone like PJ Tucker.
So if you're going to talk about Golden State, who he had beat already, and they also beat without James Harden this year, the Rockets are a serious threat to Golden State.
Okay. Now, this naturally transitioned to the MVP debate because right now, as we get to this point in the season, it's no longer, hey, maybe Paul George or, maybe LeBron or whatever. Like right now, it is either Giannis or James Harden. For you, is it Giannis or James Harden in the MVP?
Listen up. Listen up, Jalen.
Okay.
Listen up.
Okay.
I don't want to hear this garbage, and I'm going to call it garbage, about Giannis Antetokounmpo being the MVP of the NBA. When you have a guy like James Harden who is literally breaking history. He's doing something, my man, we have never seen before.
I'm sure I could pull some stats about Giannis that say, well, no one's had this many dunks in a season or something.
Guess what? I've seen Anthony Davis do it. I've seen Kevin Garnett do it. I've seen guys stat stuff. I've seen guys win in the NBA. But James Harden is doing something you may never see again. Wilt Chamberlain put up record numbers, finger rolling over guys. And James Harden shooting three-point step backs. And not just that, his impact on the game. He's been the one sole consistency in Houston. I don't know how it's not James Harden.
Okay, here's how it works, though. You know how it works. It's not always the best player in the league. The best player in the league is LeBron James, okay? But he's not going to be the MVP. He's the most valuable player. It's a little bit of a politics thing, and it's a media thing. Remember, they always want to give it to the new guy. Like they're like, all right, we gave it to James last year. He finally got his. Now it's time for Giannis. You know how this works. If you were going to bet, I know you think that James Harden is the MVP, but if you were going to bet on who is the MVP, you would bet on Giannis, wouldn't you?
I almost tilted my head a little bit when he laid some eggs. James Harden, when he broke the streak, I said maybe it's over. And then what does he do? He breaks the internet with 58 points and 10 assists. He breaks history. So James Harden came back to let you know, I'm not going away. I'm not going away. And if you cannot look at that, by the way, the Miami team that they just beat Golden State the other night. They just beat Golden State.
Barely so they accidentally beat Golden State.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no slouch.
Well, one of the best teams in the East faced off with one of the best teams in the West. I'm talking about the Sixers against the Thunder. Now, keep in mind, the Sixers have not beaten the Thunder in 19 straight games.
Oh, my gosh.
19 straight games they haven't beaten the Thunder until last night. Tobias Harris had probably his best game as a Sixer. He put in 32 points. He's really fit in quickly, and he's fit in well. What about his game is such a good fit with the Sixers team?
I want you to know one word. One word.
What's that?
Efficiency.
Efficiency.
This team had problems with who's going to be the leader, who's going to take shots, how are they going to fit, chemistry. Tobias Harris fixed all of the Sixers' problems because he does not need the ball in his hands to get his shot. He can play off the ball. In fact, he may be one of the best players outside of Klay Thompson of playing without the basketball in hand. And as you saw last night, when you look at the Sixers roster, he may have the third or fourth best defender guarding him. You got Jimmy Butler.
That's a good point.
You got Ben Simmons. Obviously, Embiid wasn't in action that night, but one of those guys is going to have a favorable matchup. And then Tobias Harris, Mr. Efficiency, you know what he does well? I'm going to give you basic. If he's got a big slow guy on him, he's going to pop out to three, knock it down to three. And if he has a shorter guy on him, he's going to go down to the paint and post him up. He's going to make the correct play every single time.
One thing about him is the way he can fit in with a new team because he's not like Joel Embiid. He doesn't need the ball, as you mentioned.
Yep.
You want me to be a catch and shoot guy? I'll be a catch and shoot guy. Do you want me to take my man to the hole? I can do that too. Do you want me to post up? I can do that too. Just tell me what you want, coach. Tell me exactly what we need right now, and I will adjust to that, which is why I think he was such a good pickup for the Sixers. Do you think the Sixers signed Tobias long term? Do you think they signed Jimmy Butler long term? Is this the Sixers moving forward?
You know what I like to call these? These are rich people problems. These are rich people problems. I got to pick between Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler.
They could sign them both in theory.
Yeah,
it wouldn't leave them with a lot of flexibility.
They could. But now you got a good issue at hand. Who do I keep? Who stays? Is it one? Is it two? Is it both? Who is it going to be rather than none? Some teams are looking to acquire talent, and they already have them. If this was a free agency period, which is going to be, you've got them in-house where you can do the best wooing, a la Paul George. Paul George could have left the Thunder and obviously was likely going to be a Laker. But guess what? Oklahoma City had the first crack at wooing him and showing him the ins and outs of Oklahoma City and giving him a vision. And it was so hard for him to leave that he didn't.
Didn't leave. Well, we've talked about the Celtics' problems a lot.
Oh.
And the Raptors have like low-key kind of fallen off a little bit in the second half of the season. Would you pick the Sixers or the Bucks as a favorite to come out of the East?
Sixers or the Bucks? Neither.
Who are you picking?
Neither. I still pick the Celtics.
You're still picking the Celtics?
I still pick
Have
the
you
Celtics.
seen the Celtics play basketball in the last couple weeks? They're the only team in the NBA that hasn't won a game since the All-Star break.
Okay, so I'm going to give you this. If we go down to playoff basketball, one thing I threw at you earlier, matchups.
Stars.
Playmakers. Stars.
Yep.
Finishers. I still think it comes down to the best closer in the game. When everything's even, when everything is mano a mano, one-on-one even, Kyrie Irving is still the best closer, finisher in the game. He's got a proven track record, and you still see him getting it done. Okay. Now, obviously, defensively, they have things they have to fix because that's what made the Boston Celtics special. It wasn't the scoring. It was the defense. And when you're going to put the ball in somebody's hands in a fourth quarter of the Eastern Conference Finals or a championship or a playoff, I'm giving the ball to Kyrie, my man.
You're picking the Boston Celtics to come out of the Eastern Conference.
I still pick the Boston Celtics.
I felt that way in October. I certainly felt that way in October, maybe even into November. But as the season went on and they kept losing basketball games and then Kyrie talks about leaving, I am definitely not picking the Celtics to even make the conference finals.
Well,
they're going to be like the 5th seed.
Who's a better closer? I don't see a better closer out there.
Giannis. MVP Giannis. Do you know who's not coming out of the Eastern Conference?
Oh,
the New York Knicks.
Oh,
my die easy Knicks. We're on a win streak of 2 games. Last night they were up by 9 at the end of the game with just like 5 minutes left. I think they scored like 1 point in the last 5 minutes. This possession here, I love. Just bounces it off his own head, almost out of bounds. Fizdale's just like, I've had enough. Give me a timeout. They lost this game to the Cavs. Now, very quickly, I just want this. If you're a Knicks fan, do you want them to lose like this, or do you want this young core to experience some winning, maybe if it hurts your lottery chances a little bit?
You know what you want? Obviously, the losing helps with the picks, but you want your team to compete. And when I watch the New York Knicks, I have to take my hat off to Coach Fizdale. Why? Because even if they win or if they lose, they get after you. They play incredibly hard. And this is part of the learning pangs and the process of having young players on your roster. Young players don't know how to finish games. They're inconsistent. They have never been in situations like this before. Kevin Knox is not a 2-time NBA All-Star champion with the ball in his hands.
No.
He has to learn. So right now, he's learning valuable lessons of not just competing in games, but he's getting put in positions that he will see again. Keep in mind, Kobe Bryant airballed in the playoffs against Utah. Young guys hadn't been there before, so they have to see these situations in which they learn.
Bryce Harper signed a $330 million deal, and somehow I'm still looking at it like, I don't know if this is the best idea. I'll explain why after this. Michael Carter-Williams has had a, let's call an up and down NBA career.
Well, he got traded from Philly by mentioning the word win in the locker room one time.
Yeah, they were like the Win Hotel. Like, when does the bus leave? Like, what do you mean? There's no win around here.
Got to give the